Welcome in, everybody. My voice sounds a little bit different because I am not Mitchell Carroll today. Today you are hearing from the soothing voice of Yahir Vazquez.
It's so soothing.
So soothing. With my little lisp and everything.
I'm ready to take a nap. It's so soothing.
People do tell me I have a face for radio quite often, so I'm starting to believe that.
I disagree.
And the other voice you're hearing right now is Mr. Duane Brown.
That's my voice. Not as soothing, but maybe someday.
But very relaxing, I will say. When I do hear your voice, there are brighter days ahead.
Wow. I'm putting that on my resume. I'm adding it.
Yahya's bright day meter. That's who you are at this point. Mitch is out today because he's on a backpacking trip, and we wish him all the best luck.
He is. I told him yesterday when he left not to hug any bears, even if they have a sign that says free bear hugs. That's a trap.
Imagine getting a free bear hug from a cocaine bear.
It wouldn't be a hug. It would be just death. That's all it would be.
So today, talking about mauling.
Welcome in, everybody.
Yeah, welcome in. Talking about maulings. We're going to talk about the Rapids today and how they've been getting mauled for most of the season.
Yikes.
Great way to transition. We're going to be talking a little bit about Padraig Smith and all the comments he had to make about the summer transfer window. We'll also touch a little bit on the world news, Neymar, Messi, Ronaldo's comments maybe about which is the best league, which was, I thought, very crybaby, but we'll get that. And at the end, we'll talk a little bit about LAFC and see if the Rapids even have a chance for any of this week. And right off the top, I do want to say that Sunday we will not be doing a post-game. Our post-game will be Monday morning because we have... unfortunately, we have some family commitments coming up this weekend.
We'll still be covering the game via Twitter.
Actually, this is the first time ever. Show history. Duane's going to be running the Twitter account.
I may just do all emojis. Who knows?
And that's going to be a great time for everybody tuning into that game.
You're in for a treat, folks.
So, kind of starting off, we heard the media heard from Padraig this weekend.
Do you want to cover the breaking news first?
Oh, that's true. We did have breaking news
like 10 minutes ago.
How do you... Let me talk to you a little smoother because you were happy about this.
Dude, we'll break it first.
The news. I'm afraid you're going to yell at me if I break it. So Abubakar Keita gets a multi-year extension. And we have the breaking news music. There we go. Literally, what was it, 30 minutes ago it broke?
It was, just a few minutes, 15 maybe, I don't know.
Abubakar Keita is going to be a Rapid for multiple years now. I didn't really see how long it was because I was mid-show doing some other things.
I think it was through 2025.
So, 2-3 more years, maybe a team option at the end of that people don't talk about, that it's not in the release. But instant reactions when you saw that.
It was just kind of funny to me. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. It's 2023. Fine with it. But it's just everyone's clamoring for big signings, and we get through the transfer window, and some people are happy about it, some people aren't. And then the big signing is extending a guy who has 0 first-team minutes. Just hit very funny to me. That was comedy. Comedy Rapids Twitter there for me. And I really wish Mitch was here because Mitch is really high on Keita. He is. He loves Keita.
He thinks Keita is one of the better young defenders the Rapids have.
That's nothing against Keita.
Oh no, of course not.
I just found it funny, just given
the circumstances,
just given the vibes around the Rapids lately. Kind of made me laugh a little bit.
I completely understand where you're coming from because you're like, oh, are they going to get Neymar? You're hearing all these rumors. You hear, they're negotiating with free agents. We're still talking to a few people. There's a championship striker. Then we get this email 30 minutes ago, and it's, Abubakar Keita extended for 4 more years. And again, I believe in the kid. I really do believe when Padraig said in his presser that they try to replace Austin Trusty with 2 of the brightest young left-footed defenders. And I really did think Gus, because if you go back and listen to when Gus came to the Rapids, Mitch kept talking about how a lot of these Cincinnati fans were really upset because that was the brightest spot of their team. It was a player that they were really excited for. And when it came to Keita, it kind of feels the same thing. A lot of these Columbus fans were really sad to see Keita go because they had high hopes for him, but the Rapids just kind of outbid him. And I think that's the good thing about Keita. Keita's a young defender that I think in a couple years you can pair him with a Moise Bombito. You can, if you're decided to go with a 3-back, you have a Maxu Bombi and Keita kind of back three, young, but yet you have some veteran leadership. The worst part about him so far is that he's been injured. He hasn't played. He had an ACL tear, which, again, he doesn't want to be injured. Like, he didn't plan for that.
Sure. That's not his fault.
It's not at all. And it sucks really bad because, like, again, if you talk to people around the league, they had high hopes for him. They thought he was going to be one of those. He was going to be the guy. And unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out.
It just feels very Rapids. Here's a guy coming off of an injury who is supposed to be good. We don't know yet. And so it really fits into that yet another Rapids project player. Young, hurt. Maybe he's good. Maybe he's not. We don't know. I'll get more into this later as we get into the show today. But it's funny because it was something I was actually going to bring up a little bit. But yeah, it just feels... It's the Rapids-iest signing.
At the end of the day, like, it already happened. We can complain. In my opinion, like, we can just completely complain about this, you know?
Sure.
But you can only have high hopes for him at this point. He's going to be a Rapid for at least another year.
And again, nothing against Keita.
No.
I'm excited for him. I hope he's awesome. It feels like the most Rapids of signings.
Again, and he's been at the U19 or U20 World Cup in 2019. He was a starter back then. Like, he has a lot of talent. You see him out there in practice, because I have had that privilege to see him out there a couple times, and he's really impressive. He's yelling at guys. He seems to show leadership skills. So I'm excited for him, but I can't bank my future on him.
For sure.
It's something that, like, I think it'll be cool if it works out, because you can kind of have a optimistic view that you have that great backline with Amaxu and Bombi and Keita, and you just have a lot of more bodies back there with the Michael Edwards if they work out. But for now, it's more like we have to wait and see, of course.
Yeah. Which is why it feels very Rapids. It's a wait and see signing. It truly is.
By the way, happy anniversary! It's the Rapids Way anniversary.
Hooray.
Shout out Julio, who posted out that on Twitter. By the way, that's right.
I saw that this morning too.
Yep. I'm kind of talking about the Rapids Way and Padraig Smith, the creator of the Rapids Way. He had a few interesting comments talking about the Rapids and who they were targeting for the summer window. Any initial thoughts about, like, things, anything that stood out
about the presser?
Yeah, just the presser, anything he said.
If there's some chance that you're watching or listening and don't know that there was a presser by now, everyone
you wouldn't be out
everyone's
in the dark.
been talking about it. Just in case, Padraig Smith, top of the top, just below ownership, in that world at the Rapids, had a presser earlier this week with local media to talk about transfer window and those sort of things. It was a lot of words and a lot of kind of what we expected to hear, which is to say a lot of words and not feeling very much different about the state of the club after all is said and done. I mean, I think the highlights, I guess you could say, that kind of stood out from the presser the most is just hearing again Padraig saying super frustrated with how things have gone, and there will be changes. No specifics on any of those changes. So we will see what that means for the roster.
And those are things that we've heard quite a bit too, behind closed doors.
Totally.
That, like, things that we can't give details on for reasons behind, because you don't want to compromise sources or whatever. But we've heard that quite a bit from people within the organization, that changes are imminent and that team is super frustrated where they are.
Yeah. So we'll see if that actually happens. I mean, that we're all left in the same boat, right? Whether you cover the Rapids or you follow us and Burgundy Wave and Brendan Plone over at the Post and the folks covering the squad and the club, we're all in the same boat. Or you're somebody who's griping about you don't think that we cover the Rapids very well. These are the answers you get. So, you get words, and sometimes those words from Padraig are very encouraging. And sometimes they leave you with more questions. And that's kind of part of the thing with the presser that a lot of people have talked about. It was only 30 minutes long. The Rapids digital team was involved. It got to ask a question when clearly they could have done that at any time.
They could have pulled him in the hallway.
You really could have done that at any time. So I thought that was a little weird. But this is the club controlling that situation, and giving the minutes, that they wanted to give, whatever. They're in charge. It's their presser. They're allowed to do that, That's what it is. So now you know what it's like. After people have been complaining about not taking the club to task, now you know what it's like. If you've listened to what was posted by the Rapids or the recording that Matt over at Burgundy Wave posted, you can hear what it sounds like and try to ask questions and push on things and what that experience is like. But getting into it, the other thing that you hear as far as Padraig not being happy is again going back to the Rubio and Price injuries. I don't think it's wrong to place that as the scapegoats of why the team is not performing as well as they could. We all know that when Price and Diego are on the pitch, the club is better. The squad is just far better. So I don't think it's wrong for Padraig to say that. And I think that's on point. I think the thing is, we've known about some of these injuries for some time, especially with Price, and it's the struggle to bring in replacements, and it's the struggle of roster creation when there's not enough depth to have someone step up and be that guy. Like Danny Leyva was brought in. He's not it.
He's not. And again, I was high on him too.
Sure, I remember. You got me pumped up about Danny Leyva.
I thought and I think Juaner, friend of the pod, made a really good point that Danny is still good. He is still a good player.
Sure.
But he's a technical player, and if you don't have any identity or don't know who you are, that technical aspect of you just doesn't matter because you don't know what you're doing. And that's the biggest thing when I kind of see that when Padraig talks about Rubio and Price, I'm like, okay, fair enough, they're injured. But as a GM, it's your responsibility to try to replace those guys. And that's something he always says, and he said it on our podcast. It's, when you first come in here, my job is to replace you. Your job is to prove me that you shouldn't be replaced. And I think, in all honesty, man, I think there's a lot of guys on this team that have proven that they should be replaced, that the squad is not good enough. And I feel like there's a little bit of backtracking on that, and that's something I don't think he's actually talked about enough, that his replacement, and I think he mentioned it too with Austin Trusty and in Sam Vines, that he tried to find replacements in a young Gus and a young Keita, and that they didn't work out, and throw in Lucas in there too. That he tried to find those young replacements, but after 2021, there wasn't a big we need to find talent again to keep this going. It was more of a, you guys are gone, let's see if we can nickel and dime this to get the players we want. Whether it's Padraig's fault or whether it's ownership's fault, it doesn't matter at this point because you are where you are because you didn't find the replacements.
Totally. And it's not just, they mention, those two players and gosh, Trusty gets brought up all the time.
I'm not a big Trusty guy.
I'm not a big Trusty guy.
And I like him, the player, but I don't like his last 3 months here.
He checked out, so whatever. Fight me on it. I don't care. It's the facts.
Fight Duane.
But you look at the situation up front too. All of the fanfare that was brought in with Yappy, being brought up to first team, and Cabral, and all of the potential for these guys who are simply not scoring. So maybe that's a roster construction thing. But for a club that kind of hangs its hat on projects and bringing in players who are young or affordable or damaged goods from another club and we can fix them here, it seems like there is a big drop off when we bring in some of these young players or project players that they are not being developed. Like, the thing about like Yappy and Cabral is I think they're good at soccer. And
I'll
some
agree with
people
you
are,
on Yappy.
I know people are going to disagree on Cabral, but I'm telling you, Cabral doesn't come into the league with the fanfare that he had and get the deal that he got in California, you know, in LA, and all of that money, unless he was exhibiting skills that he can play soccer at a high level. I believe those skills are there. Whatever happened in LA broke that confidence or whatever. We bring him in and you look and nothing has changed. And that tells me that we are not doing a good job of developing some of these players that we're bringing in as projects. Same thing is true for Yappy. I think he is talented. I think he is very good at soccer, but he's not being developed in the right way to be able to take that next step. So if we're going to be a club that is going to play Moneyball or nickel and dime or whatever you want to call it, and we're going to bring in these projects, then we need to take extra steps to make sure our development of these young players or these project players is actually happening. And that's when I look at a Boubacar Keita extension and I think the same thing. Okay, we just extended a guy who has 0 first team minutes coming off of an injury and we're hoping that he's good. Man, you're going to do that? You better develop him and give him the support that he needs to be great. You better develop and support Cabral with the help that he needs to be great. You need to develop and support Yappy so that he gets what he needs to be great. If you are truly saying we're bringing these players in because we believe in them and we know that they can be something special, then it's on you to make sure that that happens. And I just don't see that, you know? So that's my issue when we think about the presser and you hear about like, well, we've had some bad injuries to Jack and to Diego. Well, you have to develop a squad that has the depth to cover for that. And if your squad depth is made up of projects, then you need to make sure that you're developing and you're supporting those projects. And I'm just not sure that that's happening.
And that brings up a really good point, and I think we have to talk about Robin. But first, before we do, this episode of DNVR Rapids is brought to you by Illegal Pete's.
Illegal Pete's.
How much do you love Illegal Pete's? A scale from 1 to Illegal Pete's. How much?
1 to Illegal Pete's, totally illegal.
Oh man,
super illegal.
I know something about illegal. Trust me. No, I'm Mexican. I can say that. It's fine.
You can't.
It's okay. Illegal Pete's offering handmade mission-style burritos, bowls, and tacos crafted with responsibly sourced, high-quality ingredients, with a full bar and wide selection of local draft beer at every location to keep the burritos and the good times rolling. Stop by for happy hour, 3 to 8 p.m. every day at all 12 locations. That's a 5-hour happy hour.
That's not a happy hour. That's happy hours.
That's happy time.
That's happy time.
That's happy time. Illegal Pete's, the go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beers for 28 years. So we were talking about Robin, and you were talking about development, about how there hasn't been any development of these young prospects, and you said you believe in Cabral, you believe in Yappy. And when you look at that, Padraig does too. Because if he didn't, he wouldn't bring them in here. He wouldn't think they were first team quality players on a top 10 league in the world.
I agree.
So there has to be a disconnect between the coaching staff and between the front office. And who does it fall on? Because Fraser I think Fraser's a good coach. But is Fraser the right coach for this team? It's very different.
Yep. It goes. The unfortunate thing about leadership is that regardless of what happens on your watch, it's your watch. Yep. So if you are at the top, the things that happen are on your watch. You are the ultimate responsibility for that. I'm not saying that that's fair, but that's the truth. And it's up to you as a leader, whether it's fair or not, to choose how you respond to those situations and how you respond to challenges. And part of that is those situations like you mentioned. Is there a disconnect between the front office and the coaching staff? I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But what I do know is that we see players with supposedly, high ceilings that Padraig believes in and trusts, and I do too. But we're not seeing them perform at the level that we were promised or encouraged that they will be. And so because of that, that's on the leadership, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the response. It's got to go to Padraig because he's the leader. So if he sees that it's not working, then you have to ask yourself, where are we missing on this? And so if it's development, how do I get more resources into that? Is it coaching? How do I shift the coaching or replace the coaching to do that? Is it roster? Did I screw up on the roster? Mm-hmm. Then I need to change the way I'm looking at rostering or change the way we're scouting. But all of those questions, they all filter up. That's why you get paid the big bucks. I
mean, again, you're completely right. And Dustin brings up a great point in the comments. We don't have one player that exceeded expectations. And I saw that and I'm like, oh, I completely agree with you, Dustin. But then the more I heard Duane talk, the more I started to think, do we have they exceeded expectations? Have not exceeded expectations? Or have they not been helped to at least reach their expectations? What came first, the chicken or the egg kind of question? Is it the coaching or is it the players themselves? And that's where, when I look at this, I'm like, what's gonna make this team actually good? Is it getting more good players? Is it getting players because people around the league clearly look at Rubio and they think Rubio's great. Yeah, a lot of people think Jack Price.
I am one of those people.
People, if you hear a national podcast like Extra Time, they're hyped about the Navarro coming in here and trying to be a player.
Sure.
They think Gutman's a good player. They highly rate Keegan Rosenberry. You have great players on this team. So what's the reason why those great players are not producing results? And to me, unfortunately, it comes down to you have the players. I think you have maybe not first place team, but you don't have bottom of the league team, in my opinion. I just don't think you do. I think you might be missing depth. That's something completely different. But I think your starting 11 is good enough to compete with people around the league and at least be 8th in the West, 7th in the West, 10th in the West. You're not 14th in the West, in my opinion. And that's where you got to look at it and be like, is it coaching? Because I think you have a squad. And this is not taking any blame on for Padraig, because I think Padraig has also done a poor job of replacing key players at key times.
Sure.
But to me, there has to be a disconnect there. And I've talked about this. At what point does Fraser start losing the room just because his message gets stale, not because he's a bad guy or because of results? And that's where I start thinking, if changes are going to be made, what would be one of the changes? Would it be Padraig? I don't think so. He just got a huge extension.
They all got. Yeah,
they all did.
I mean, Robin did too.
But it's a cheaper one than what Padraig got. And I talked about this because we have a little chat, and I asked this: if Fraser gets fired, which I'm not saying he should. If Fraser gets fired, if they sign Navarro to a full, if they pay that release clause, and they play Tavares' release clause, is that the biggest investment that the Cronkies have ever made on this team?
If
all those things happen,
the $5 million,
exactly. If they play Navarro $5 million, Tavares, I think it's like $1 million.
Well, of course it is.
And then and that's so sad.
They've not, and by far it's like over double.
That's a Saturday for the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And the Rapids can't even do that. And that's where I'm really frustrated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that gets to ownership, and that's a whole nother,
Yeah. And again,
I say, like when it moves up to the top and there's a responsibility of leadership, that's a whole nother level, is moving it up even above that to ownership. Because I believe that that Padraig Smith goes to Josh Kroenke and asks for money. I think he asks for more staff.
A new stadium.
I think he asks for all of those things. I truly believe that he does. I don't have any proof of that because I'm not in those meetings, but I believe that it happens. And I will never believe that the Kroenkes are interested in the Rapids until they are interested in the Rapids. They don't show up. They were not even there to open the stadium on opening day. They're absent. They're absentee owners until it's just an investment that you dump your money in and you leave it in your 401k and hope that 30 years later you can retire on it. It's that kind of investment. You don't look at it, And with the way that MLS clubs are skyrocketing in value, I get it,
but
why
wouldn't you?
This is an absentee ownership. And I don't think that they're supporting Padraig or anyone for that matter in this club. I think obviously they've done a tremendous job with the Avs, with the Nuggets, with the Mammoth, with the Los Angeles Rams, all teams who have won championships, all teams that also get a lot of money from the Kroenkes.
I think it's also
Arsenal,
a different setup a little bit.
Struggling. What happened? They got a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, that's
Rapids,
the one. That's
struggling. What did they get? Not a damn thing.
That's the one where I can point and be like, because they don't have salary cap. The other ones, the other ones is like you can only make so much investment and be that good because of salary caps and ownership and rules. That's the Arsenal's the one I look at and I'm like, that kind of hurts because you can kind of
get it. They know that money is what happens
in soccer.
To make a team better because they just did it. So they can't play like, I didn't know that.
That's not how soccer works. That's the one that hurts.
They're doing it for Arsenal. So it's like I know that they get it, but they're just not invested in the Colorado Rapids, unfortunately.
And you know who is invested in not just the Colorado Rapids, but in world soccer?
Who's that?
The Saudi League.
Woo!
And
boy, are they.
Man, and I want to talk a little bit about that because
let's move into that.
I just find it funny that we had nothing to say about the Padraig presser and then we just went 27 minutes on it,
we're
like, I mean, once we get going, we get going. It's the nature of the beast. But the Saudi League just signed Neymar. Last summer they signed Cristiano Ronaldo, and then they have players like Conte, Roberto Firmino, and all these other top end players out there. And I just think the Neymar to me was super interesting because to me, Neymar becomes the flashpoint of where money shifted in a lot of football. And where Saudi and oil money really, not just Saudi, not Middle Eastern, but just oil money in general, because you see it with Chelsea and Russia as well. The Russian owners and all that, and they have all that sort of stuff. But you see it that oil money is working very hard right now to push players to new positions in the world. And I was just... because if you look back, Neymar is the most expensive transfer in the history of the world when he went to PSG. $295 million.
Insane.
It's what PSG paid. PSG owned by oil money. And to me, that's when kind of everybody realized, we can just buy the best players and put them anywhere because we can afford them.
Pretty much.
And that's where I come to the question. Is it good or bad for soccer? Because I can see both sides. Well, real quick before you answer, I'll give you 10 seconds. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Give us a like. Tell your friends about a Rapids Podcast, which is us. And also, there's a podcast. If you can't see us live, you can always hear us on the way home or hear us when you're traveling, like I am tonight. So
Spotify,
Apple
Podcasts,
Stitcher,
wherever you get them. We're there. Okay, back to Saudi. So... right, we know that oil is the money there. That's what runs the Saudi market. Oil is finite, right?
It's not going to last forever.
We know that we're kind of running out of it. So I believe what we're seeing is not to get like big world things not related to soccer. It is related to soccer, but you're starting to see the very rich folks, Saudi folks, that have made all of their money on oil. Now knowing that that is finite, are moving into something else that can make a whole bunch of money for you, and that is sports. You saw it in golf with the new golf league, and then the combination with PGA and all of that stuff. And now you're starting to see it in, the world's game of soccer, right? And so there's a Saudi league, and they are trying to buy up the biggest players they can in order to cash in on that sweet sports money, of which you see NFL teams getting sold for billions. Mm-hmm. You see MLS teams that are rocketing in value. You see NWSL teams that are now rocketing in value, 500 big ones just to buy into an NWSL team now. There's a lot of money in sports, and so that's where it's going, and now they're pushing that with soccer, and so they're trying to sign the biggest players, and you've got Ronaldo over there, and then you've got Messi here, and then you see all of the, crybaby Ronaldo things, because he's finding out that he's not getting the desperate attention that he needs.
He kind of lost it.
Yeah, like it's what we were talking about earlier, is that Ronaldo is invisible right now. Like he's not a big thought of player, at least here in the U.S., because he's over in the Saudi league, and it's hard to watch Saudi league soccer.
Just the times are crazy.
Yeah, the times are super crazy. And MLS and Apple teamed up and made watching MLS very, very easy to do.
Rewatching it too, all over the world, like simple, no blackouts, no nothing.
Exactly.
Just go ahead and watch. If you want to watch Messi, you can watch Messi without a problem.
Yeah, and so maybe it's a streaming thing. Like the Saudi league gets a streaming thing. Maybe it becomes more accessible to the rest of the world. And that changes a little bit. But so far, bringing in these high players, Ronaldo and Neymar as well, I don't think he's going to make a difference either. I just think you're spending a lot of money on things, and the attention is not really going to be there. Like right now, the attention is on obviously Premier League, which is back up and running.
Mm-hmm. That's a top 5 league.
Yeah. And so, but now you've got all this like surprising and really nice attention on MLS. And that is all because of Lionel Messi. Like,
that's it.
And the dude's crushing it. Like, just can't stop scoring goals. Like,
I wish Mitchell's here, because he said, I don't think Messi's going to dominate like you guys think. And I'm like, and I said, the league has improved quite a bit, but Messi, on the other hand, is like still out of this world, and he will dominate any league he plays in.
He is just absolutely crushing MLS, at least from a Leagues Cup perspective right now. I had Philly winning Leagues Cup, and when I filled out my bracket, and man, did Miami make Philly look not like Philly?
Dude, the way that Messi plays is just incredible. Like, I think here people really knocked him because when he played in France, he wasn't dominating, but you got to remember, man, he was playing with the likes of Mbappe and Neymar.
Sure.
2 of the top 5 players in the world, including himself. You had 3 of the top 5 players in the world playing in that top 3, and they still couldn't win champions. But that's besides the point. When you have that much talent around you, you can't be doing everything all the time. You need to share the ball. You can't be dominating every minute like you can in that MLS, because you're the best player in the world, and you are the best player in that team with nobody not even close to your level. You might have Sergio Busquets and you might have Jordi Alba, but it's still not at the level that you play at. And that's where people don't realize that, and that's where I think MLS has done a great job of promoting Messi. And that's
they've gone all in, and kudos to Apple, because Apple is I think MLS does a decent job at pushing MLS, but nobody can market like Apple, right?
Exactly.
It's really pushing it hard.
Their damn logo's on Apple, and everybody can recognize it from a mile away. And when it comes to that, it's Messi's so good. Messi, they promoted the hell out of him. They've done a great job of making him the center point. And I think where Saudi Arabia is lacking is they don't do that. And I think Saudi Arabia is, I'm not going to say it's good or bad. My frustration with Saudi Arabia is that they're not developing their young talents, and they're not making football a culture thing. They're making it a facelift thing and a brand thing, which I get. They're trying to get themselves in a new light. It's understandable. I get it. You're running a country. I completely understand that.
Sure.
I'm not mad at that. What does upset me is that when you do things like this, because the MLS did it. They did it with Beckham. They did it with Lampard. They did it with all these players. But the MLS always had a structure where you can develop your young players, and they try to make soccer a culture thing.
There's no pipeline. Like you're saying, culture, there's no pipeline in that league. Mm-hmm. It is 100% dependent on
superstars
buying players.
Exactly.
You know, like that's all. I mean, that's literally all. You are buying pieces and throwing them onto the pitch. You know,
that's the frustration to me.
Sure.
It's not that they're buying these players. My frustration comes from PSG, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Chelsea, and Man City that buy these really expensive players that are not worth that. Jack Grealish is not worth $100 million. Declan Rice is not worth that money. No matter how good you are not worth that money. There's 3 players in the world, in my opinion, that are worth that. Mbappe, Cristiano in his peak, and Messi. But these inflated prices come from oil money, just trying to buy the best players for everything. And that's the thing that frustrates me. When you take them to Saudi Arabia, you are not creating a culture. You're blocking young talents that you have there. And I want them to be able to be a good soccer country. I don't want to block that. I don't want to block soccer from them. But I also want them to be able to have the opportunity to aspire to be soccer players, aspire to be there. And that's my frustration with the whole Saudi league.
And maybe that happens over time, you know? I mean, you got to buy the thing and get it going first before you can start, you know, you got to buy the seeds before you can plant them and roots start growing, you know? And so maybe that's where they're at right now in the process. I don't know. I can say, you know, Messi has done a world of good for MLS. I think even we, as you know, bottom of the table, sad Rapids fans, can acknowledge that Messi is lifting the league up so far. The dude has played 0 MLS minutes. Think about that. He's played no MLS minutes yet.
And LeBron James has watched him like 3 times already.
And MLS is certainly benefiting from that. And everything he's done in Leagues Cup so far has been nothing short of must-watch TV. You have to watch Miami now, you know, and it's going back into the season. Now getting back into, you know, once Leagues Cup is coming to a close here, getting back into the MLS season, you've got a team in last place in Miami.
That's going to make the playoffs.
That I am all in on certainly making the playoffs. You know, and that's the first question, right? Well, first question is, will Miami win Leagues Cup? I say yes.
Yeah.
The next question is, will Miami make the MLS playoffs?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think that's the hardest thing they have to do is to get into the playoffs. It's going to take just over, 2 goals a game, 2.17 or something like that.
Messi's going to will them to that.
I believe that will happen. Once they get to the playoffs, it's anybody's.
It's a free-for-all.
It's a free-for-all for the Cup. And if I'm looking at their performance in Leagues Cup, you have to ask, does Miami win MLS Cup? Do they become the first team in MLS to go from absolute bottom of the barrel last place to win the Cup in the same season? Not even the full season, too. Like, we're talking 11 games, dude.
That's insane.
Like, I mean, I don't know if people realize how crazy that is.
That's 33 points that they can get and push them to a playoff spot.
Insanity.
Like, they might even be able to get a home game with that, honestly. They might be, like, if they win every single game, they might be able to push for a home game. That's how insane that, like, Messi is.
I mean, that would be the craziest story for MLS, and
in the world,
you know,
of
that's
soccer.
Certainly what Apple's rooting for.
I would too. I mean,
who wouldn't be rooting for that? You know.
And you know who also starting their crawl from the biggest hole they've ever dug themselves? The Rapids, and they started this weekend against LAFC. But first,
we got to give a little shout out to our buddies at Shady Rays. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead, because the rest of this week is going to be hot here in Colorado, with some premium polarized shades at an affordable price from our buddies over at Shady Rays. We all have Shady Rays. I've got 2 pair. I think Yaya's got 2 pair.
I got 4 pairs.
4 pairs.
I bought my own after they gave us
some. So there you go. So there is your testimonial there. He went out and bought more. I have tested them. They are Colorado tested and approved. My Shady Rays have been adventuring at Mesa Verde, hiking across the Great Sand Dunes, whitewater rafting, the full Colorado treatment. Shady Rays gets it done every time. But let's say that they didn't. What if I'm hiking, a bear comes out and
Mitch
punches me right in the face, breaks my glasses?
That's Mitch.
Shady Ray is going to replace him, because if you lose or break your pair, even on day 1, they will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. They don't care if it's a bear. They don't care if you just sat on him. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence, folks, because they have your back long after you purchase. Together with their customers, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support to nonprofit partners across the U.S. through the Shady Rays Impact. From building play sets and pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS, the outdoor adventures of a lifetime, Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now and for years to come. You can shop the entire collection of their brand new location at Park Meadows Mall, a full-stop shop for all things Shady Rays. And if you don't love your Shady Rays, exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. The team always has your back. And exclusively, as you know, dear listeners, Shady Rays is giving you their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use your code DNVR for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
I'm pretty sure it's way more people by then. This read is kind of old.
These numbers are probably way higher.
I think we're looking about a Cristiano salary about $1 billion at this point.
Cristiano salary.
A good old.
We're talking Saudi soccer numbers here.
Yeah, we're talking about
5-star reviews.
Neymar's making $1 billion, man. That's insane. I made $1 billion on buying the Rapids. I've said this 1 billion times. Buying the Rapids and everybody that owns the Rapids. So the Rapids, they're back this Sunday. We're gonna see the first of a Navarro in the MLS, because we still in MLS too.
Yep.
We're going to see the first of maybe Tavares, which I saw Mark, I think, was asking earlier if he's going to start, which I think he will. They want to see what they have in the kid. And we're going to see the first of this new quote-unquote Rapids team and structure. What are your thoughts on it? Again, probably the second or third best team, if not the first best team in the league.
I mean, that's another conversation. I believe LAFC will be top of the West by the end of the season, going into playoffs. They are that good. They're a stacked team. I don't see any way that they don't.
I was thinking of Philly and Seattle too. They're 2 teams that I think might be at some.
I get St. Louis is up top, and man, have they accomplished some incredible things as an expansion team. But they're starting to feel reality of being in MLS after that, super hot start. And so I think it will be enough to push LAFC up to the top.
It's a grueling existence in MLS, for sure.
Yes. And so that being said, I think they're defending champions. I believe that they... there's no reason that they won't. It's theirs to lose as far as getting to the final and playing for the cup again this year. So that is a daunting task for the Rapids this coming Sunday. However, if we look at very, very recent history, these 2 teams have played already this season, and we finished at one of our classic Rapids draws. A 0-0 matchup before.
I'm going to be honest. I don't remember that game because it was our takeover and that was pretty lit. I'm going to be 100% honest. But I do remember that it was a draw.
So we did not get smoked by any means in the last match.
And I think you should have more hope as well because it's an away game.
It's an away game, which we are better on the road. We do have I don't know if I would say retooled offense, but certainly an experimental offense that we're about to roll out with a healthy Diego and Navarro coming out. And we saw a small taste of that at that Rapids 2 game. I will say things were faster. There was a little bit more creativity. I think that will only grow as they continue to play together. But the biggest part of that, and I think this is one of the keys to pulling off a Rapids win on Sunday, is that no MLS club, no one in the entire league, including LAFC, has had to face this offense yet with Navarro and Diego playing together.
I think that's going to be electric.
It is a mystery for defenses to have to figure out.
Not unless you play Fraser ball.
So, well, gosh, don't say things like that. There is a mystery there that LAFC will be the first, to have to deal with, and I think that is advantage Rapids, because they can try whatever they want. And it will be new to play against. So there's a little bit of advantage there for Rapids in the sense that there's an element of chaos, which I am always cheering for. Mm-hmm. And that's an advantage for Rapids. Like I mentioned earlier, we've got a healthy Diego. That is an advantage for Rapids. The team is always better when he's on the pitch. The roster is healthy.
That's healthy as it's gonna get for sure.
Yeah, save for Price, who's out. It's as healthy as we've been all season. So that's a good thing for the Rapids. The question remains: who's going to be playing on the wings?
I think you found something with the wings. I really do think you found a great. I think you found a great pairing with Galvan and Harris, in my opinion. I think you found two players that can be dynamic on the wings. I think they found two players that are playing really well with their wing backs. I think Gutman and Harris have a great relationship.
Sure.
Same thing over here on the right side. I think Galvan and Keegan have created a great relationship where they're knowing where they're going to be at all times. To me, my biggest thing is you're going to play them together. Rubio should be your 10. And as much as I like Cole, I think Cole should be on the bench. And I think you need that creativity. And I think Tavares should be your other 6-8 with Roden playing your only 6.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do. Because you didn't go get a 6. And I think Tavares has to play. Rubio has to play. And Navarro has to play. How you organize them around there, it's up to you. And who you're going to put around them, up to you. But Ronan, Tavares, Rubio, and Navarro have to be your 4 guys that are out there at all times. Because they're the ones,
spine of your team, right down the middle.
Exactly. At that point, because I think you found, I'm not going to say your stalwart, but I think you found your final piece of that spine in Maxu. And now who are you going to put in front of Maxu so that ball transitions quickly from defense to midfield to offense?
Yep.
I think Rubio's the connector from the midfield to the offense.
Yep.
And I think Navarro and him are the finishers. You have Ronan that can connect from the midfield to the offense. Now you need somebody that can connect from there. And those are the only guys that can do that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's why you need all those 4 guys out there. And Tavares, you just need to see what he can do. You got him on loan. You got to buy him.
Yeah.
You actually have to, you got to see what you have in him. He also got the number 10, which is kind of crazy. The most historic number in soccer.
Yeah.
So that shows you what they think of him. I've heard he can play anywhere from a 10 to a 6.
We'll see. So, midfield is that's an area that we've been battered on.
And that's my thing. You don't have Brian Acosta anymore, so you're going to have to rip off the Band-Aid. You can't throw him in as a safeguard. Yep. You have to play Priso. You have to play the Daniel Leivas. You have to play the young guys. You no longer have somebody there. You maybe bring up a Romo from Rapids too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
See if you can see what he has. But now you're no longer doing that kind of established thing where, I'm scared. I'm just going to throw in experienced guys. They kind of took off all your safeguards. They're like, no more training wheels. Yeah. You have to play the kids. And that's why I was really surprised Lalos and Danny didn't leave. Because I think if Padraig really wanted to push Fraser to develop more people, he would have taken one of those two guys and been like, Bombi and Kate are your two options. Decide who you want to go with.
Yeah, I thought that was going to happen too.
And that's my main reason why. But kind of getting back to the game, I think the Rapids are going to give a battle. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. I don't know if it will be a win or not. But I think the way that LAFC has played is very up and down lately, and we don't know what LAFC we're going to get, even though they did destroy St. Louis about a month ago, which was incredible to watch.
And they, I mean, save for getting bumped, they were playing very well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Carlos Vela has a lot of unknowns right now in his future. He doesn't know if he's going to stay with LAFC. Chivas is knocking on the door. Hopefully the Rapids are knocking on that same door and like, hey, Carlos, how you doing? Would you like to go on a date with me, you know? But I think at the end of the day, I think LAFC is just too good. I think they have a way more experienced midfield compared to everybody else. And I think the Rapids are going to tie 1-1. That's my thing. I think no matter how good I don't know, man. I said that and that felt really wrong. I need to take a 2-1 loss. It felt wrong me saying it. I think LAFC is too good, but I think it's going to be a fun game to watch.
LAFC is obviously very dangerous on the scoring end of things with Vela and Boanga. I mean, Boanga has 12 goals.
Boanga's incredible.
12 goals, and there's still 11 games left. And Vela has 8. And also 6 assists.
And they still have Buki on the other side.
Yes, like, and that's just 2/3 of the front. Yeah. So they're super dangerous. It doesn't feel to me, even with that and knowing that, I feel like when we play squads that are known for their offensive domination, something clicks with the Rapids and we end up shutting down. Not all of it, but we will shut down one player.
You think
and that screws up their offense so bad. And we have a way of really clamping down on one player and pushing them off of their game, which ruins the other two. When we play against high output offenses, so I'm saying it will be a draw. I think it will be 2-2.
Oh, that's going to be fun. If it's a 2-2 draw, I'm all the way in.
Yeah, I think it will be a draw, but I think it will be a fun draw. I think, again, the unknowns that you have to deal with the Rapids, and not knowing what to prepare for on offense with us, will turn into goals. And so I think we could get multiple goals in this game. And I will give LAFC goals just because they're so good at scoring goals.
They're LAFC. They're good. What do you want from us?
But we shut them down last time, and that's what I'm saying.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people in the camera.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, they haven't said anything, but I'm just saying, if anybody tells me, you guys are talking too much about it, they're good. What do you want?
Look, we get it. I have nothing but respect for an LAFC team that dominates the league.
I don't hate them, surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
They're fun, that's why.
Just they're out of sight, out of mind for me. So it's
they're so high up in the rankings that you just don't.
So I mean, I'm sure I would hate them if we were closer to them.
We're really battling with those Miami,
but we're not really battling with them right now. So it's kind of a watch them do their thing and be in awe of it. But again, we have a way of clamping down and disrupting other teams' offenses. There are not a lot of games this season. I mean, obviously we lose a lot of games, and the ones we don't lose, we don't win. But a common thing in all of that is that none of them are high scoring affairs. You don't go to a Rapids game to watch a goal bonanza from either team. It's just not what happens when the Rapids are playing. So I think 2 goals is a lot of goals for the Rapids, obviously, in one game.
I mean, a 4-goal game is insane.
But, 2 goals for LAFC is very normal and very on brand and would not be crazy. So I think I'm going to go 2-2.
All right, guys. So you heard it here first. The Rapids are going all the way. They're going
win. All the way to the whistle on Sunday.
They're going all the way, and they're gonna try to make the playoffs. Well, guys, thanks for listening. To us rant really about the Rapids for about an hour. Really appreciate everybody that listened to us. Don't forget to give us a follow on DNVR_Rapids, where on Twitter, where Duane's gonna be handling the thread for the first time.
Let's go.
It's gonna be insane. Duane Gold Bonanza.
We'll see. I don't know how I'm gonna handle it yet. I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be something creative and wacky, or maybe we'll just cover soccer.
He's just gonna make memes and a bunch of graphics
and
the whole
wait
time.
And see.
Don't forget to also hear this podcast wherever you hear podcast on, whether it be Apple, Google, Spotify, any of those things. Really helps us out. Please give us a thumbs up as well on your way out. That really helps us out. And a 5-star review. 5-star reviews are really fun for me. Whenever I see one, I get excited. I get giddy. I think people like me. I'm a people pleaser.
Everyone go out and like Yahya.
Like me, please. I'm married. Don't like me that hard, but please like me. Anything else?
No, thanks as always for jumping into the chats. We appreciate you. We don't get to every comment during the show, but we are reading them as the show goes along. So we appreciate you. Thanks for interacting on Twitter. And with all the drama the last couple of weeks about covering the Rapids, we appreciate those of you who have supported us. And we're very upfront about that on Twitter. And that's awesome. Thank you for doing that. It makes us feel good. And it's not an easy beat to cover.
It's never.
So we, we're doing our best, and we think we're doing it in a way that's fun. So
also, quick reminder: no post game Sunday night. Post game will be Monday morning. Everybody waiting for that because I know you guys are clamoring for more Duane and Yahya, and maybe Mitch, depending how you feel.
Yeah.
You guys are clamoring for
so
the
Pitts boys. So we're giving you
boys.
Something to watch and listen to while you're at work.
Exactly.
Bonus on a Monday.
You're welcome, people. And above all the negative comments, above all the love, above all the good and bad in the world, you know what it is?
I do know what it is.
Say it for me.
It's up the Pids.
They didn't find it.